Welcome back to my lovely HP community and the 5D collective and those who are on the frequency. So if you're on the frequency, what this looks like is that you get to be yourself and you get to regulate your heart, your mind. I'm going to give you a little bit on this message, but I'm going to try and keep the cards away because when the blue hits the light, it makes me look orange. But tomorrow we'll talk a little bit more about it. So detours, in addition to being able to root in what makes you happy, and if you didn't listen to the other pre-full moon messages, you can go ahead and tune into that one. There's a really nice poem by Rumi, Sacred Soul Sister, that I read to you, and also part of it. So your higher self, your 1-year-old is yours. Essentially, you're emotionally and mentally in that mastery and moving into the physical mastery of being your whole self. So whatever detours that came about, you were able to do more of it. Okay, so the coyote would be the detour. There was something you thought you would have, someone you thought would be in your life forever. They're not. Something, okay, and you had the opportunity to deepen the relationship with all of the emotions that you have. So unlike those who think that being non-reactive is unhealthy or that it's not your health, being non-reactive means you know how to self-regulate in a healthy way. So you know how to process emotions. In fact, let me read you the mindfulness quote from Ron Siegel, Psych D. This is from NICABM. So as he shares, one of the most useful insights that I've ever gotten out of mindfulness practice was that in the final analysis, all that I am afraid of is sensations, particularly the sensations associated with unpleasant emotions. If in fact you put emotions and you don't deal with them as unpleasant or pleasant, you're already going to help yourself, FYI. Okay, so he says getting stuck in sadness, getting stuck in fear, getting stuck in anger. What people don't understand about sad, fear, anger, then we have happiness, surprise, disgust. Those 6 basic human emotions exist because they helped us in our survival. Anger is about correction, fear is about certainty, sadness is about connection. I learned these from different people. These ones were Dr. Daniel Siegel, but we have neuroscientists, neurobiologists, trauma experts. There's so many people that anyone who's doing personal development and mindfulness seriously as a practitioner with mindset is going to be just as aware. Okay, so when you process emotions from your prefrontal, they last the 60 seconds that they do. And the more you do self-attuning regulation, the more you will have the capacity to be non-reactive, which will look like no emotions, but that's to the eyes of those who don't know how to embody their depth and their mental emotional depth. Okay, they don't have to. Distraction, avoiding, and deflecting are what insecurely attached selves do, which is why they follow people with fancy suits who are armored in, and they will translate to you what I've been telling you from that fancy lady about how it's dangerous to have no emotion. I'm going to dissect all of modern therapy and tell you how bad it is. It's keeping you stuck. That's because that individual doesn't know the depths of their emotional plane. The first 3 years of your life, it's all implicit memory. And the way somebody talks is the way that I'm going to know that they were talked to. And like the fancy man in a suit, if they're shaming, blaming, faulting, or avenging, they have had some rupture somewhere. And when they don't want to do emotions, they have had some rupture. So the wanting to be reactive tells me you don't know enough about Stephen Porges' polyvagal theory, but you probably are going to say, I don't believe in it, since you want to dissect as a non-expert new therapy and healing when you're not a therapist at all. I'm attachment trauma informed because I support as a mentor and content creator for mindset with personal development. So I got more thorough. Why? Because I care about what I bring to you, and then I got to also integrate being a holistic practitioner as a Reiki master, and so bringing in mindfulness. And then noticing, oh, I do mindfulness, mindset my entire life. How awesome is that? Okay. So it's also empowering, invigorating, and as you get over the hump of using your limbic system, you'll notice it too. If you don't, you won't. The pseudo-live person with insecure attachment is going to deflect or default to their maladaptive patterns, which is visceral and are visceral, which is why they will make blanket statements like the ones of anyone who's against the good therapist, because they don't do it, they don't know how to do it, and they're going to go grab the data from the scientist people who are also not doing it. We have a Zen master who has laundry. So we'll have 2 groups, as always. Why? Because there is free will. And so when you have two groups, 5D frequency, the other frequency. Okay, with that being said, the detours for the 5D frequency person is always going to be something that empowers you, enlightens you, and gets you to expand. That's why you are that higher self of you. And so you know that all your wavering is due to your longing to be stable. Look for instability until you become stable. And there's your 1-year-old. So you being able to regulate. If you hear Terry Real, he'll tell you how once you love yourself first, and if you don't know how to, that's why the therapists are there. You know how to be a functional adult. And so healthy self-worth people, they bring to each other conversations. And when you're exploring something in mindfulness ways, it's because you're able to say, okay, I have thoughts, I have feelings, something happened, I didn't appreciate it, and it has a process. So grieving has a process. This is also why people think that we're emotionless, because we can explain something. They don't understand that it's when you stub the toe with the emotional awareness, the mental awareness, the physical awareness, and the choice of mindfulness that you say, oh, okay, it's okay. I'm going to go and do something about this. So you regulate and then you go and share it, but you don't have to vent it. You don't have to. And the venting is because you're going to be offline. So when you ruminate, you haven't helped yourself. It's one of the reasons why when I stopped venting and people said, you can't do it, you're human. I said, that's why I can do it. I can stop because I can pause. And I had learned about pausing from the 16 or 18, I forget how old I was, but a TV show, documentary, they were talking about already our nervous system stuff. And it was the beginning, I think, of when they were finding out about our fight, flight. And so they showed a baby on the floor. They're talking about the baby is in a drug addict environment, and as they're getting ignored by the family, they're all alone, they're abandoned, that they're going to have the emotional body, the seat of empathy turned off, which is why when you hear Patrick Sheehan, childhood trauma survivor, as he says, your self hasn't been lost, it has been paused. Your emotional body hasn't been lost either, it's just been paused, or he says disconnected, but you can reconnect it. But to reconnect it means you need to feel all the emotions. That's going to be overwhelming. Your first times at the therapist, you're going to be in a fetal position. You're going to be tired when you leave. You're going to be raging and ranting. And so that's why the people who say not to go, they didn't want to do any of it. And the textbook therapist will say why. And that's because non-bilaterally integrated people have fear because they have self-loathing and gut wrench, and it's so overwhelming those first 3 years of life. That's why Robert Sapolsky's book is important. So 5D frequency means you know how to love. It means you know how to explore. It means you know how to think and feel. And detours don't throw you off your game because you have healthy self-worth and secure attachment. If, on the other hand, there are areas that you felt in the past year that came around and shook you up, that's why good therapists help people to get into their whole self. And so some people, they do that. And then if they want, they do mindfulness and they add to their capacity to feel more deeply. If they don't want to do it, there's that Zen master with laundry, or there's just people who say, I want to do it. I want life now. And humans are fucked up, so I'm going to stay this way. And that's why we have fancy lady in a suit, fancy man in a suit, because some people, they don't want to. There is, in their mind, no benefit because they want to vent, because they think that's the thing you do to show emotion. This is why it's an illusion of those who don't know how non-reactivity works. What I can tell you about non-reactivity is that it's amazing to be empowered with your emotional plane because you savor every experience. Bill O'Hanlon, LMFT. It's not enough to ask people about a positive experience. It's about savoring that experience and getting them to stay with it. When I finished the Inner Growth Mindset course, the advanced, I had just recently completed my capacity to be in neutrality and duality. And I remember noting that to myself and saying, wow, it's really spot on. I finally mastered it, so that'll make me a good teacher, mentor. But I said I want to wait a little bit more though, because I want to be completely embodying the practice, because if I'm going to do it well, that means I'm going to be able to have embodying the depth of it. And I met a person who said, you don't need to, just a little bit ahead of people. I don't agree with that, because I'm a thorough person. So when you care about what you do, you appreciate being aware of what you have built and that you offer, and then you talk about it and you share it. The channeled messages, by the way, are mixed with food for thought. So the detours, that some shit went down, and it might be people being removed or work, something, but whatever it is that happened from probably the beginning, I'm going to say it either began around January or maybe November, fall, depends, you know your stuff, but you're settling into the new you, and it took the summer for you to kind of figure things out and then to appreciate things, to really sit and appreciate. And now today, or around this full moon, the clarity is, this is really good because I can settle in with roots that are of a solid foundation because I'm solid and I know how to self-regulation, self-attuning, and self-awareness is what makes you an ideal partner, an ideal person for yourself, a person who can be reliable, your own regulating nervous system. This is what is empowering, because even if none of us are going to say, let's go and do life alone, because it's boring alone. It's nice and fun to have smart and funny people. You want to live life with people. We're all mammals. So when a person says they don't, that's a lie. And a person who doesn't want to be around people needs Patrick Teahan or Pat Ogden or Stephen Porges. Well, he doesn't practice, but they need a good therapist so that they can understand that they are welcome and who knows what took place. And so, you know, every voice is here for someone. The 5D voice, though, is here for all because we love all and we're healthy others. And so these detours, none of those who navigate life with a 5D frequency will say, life did me dirty, or that humans did anyone dirty. It's, we learn as we go. We also learn to be thorough, and we learn that we still will make mistakes because we don't know everything, and we don't need to blame it on a conspiracy or shame it or use a Lucifer. Okay, so that's why we don't do shame, blame, fault, revenge with our life and humanity in the globe. We don't need a story. We're mindfully aware in the now that we can have many stories, but practically, we're in the year 2024. We want to work to get that environment so we are able to stay grounded in non-reactivity, which is not dangerous because we're using our prefrontal. We are high on the mental, emotional, physical, intelligence scale, which is also why we have the adolescent essence. You have your inner child alive. You're a full 3-year-old heart, so you are looking at things with novelty and creative expression as a grown human being who has, by the way, what is empowering. I love being a grown human being. I loved being a teenager. I love being here. I have had the capacity, and I will continue learning, but I have the capacity to be enriched with every single depth of emotional experience, which is why you can ask me all about my oversoul. I will look to the past like I always have and said, I have a really great oversoul, and the quote-unquote unpleasant emotions, they're not unpleasant. Sadness is not about happy or unhappy. It's about connection. And if you and I are having an argument, of course I'm going to cry about it. I'm an emotional person. I'm a feminine. I'm not a masculine. And masculines, when they become a true masculine, they're also going to be emotional because we all have emotions. See? So feminine, masculine, they embody complementing each other when they're at their best. When they're not, they still can complement each other because they will still bring to each other something which involves the opposite of that which the other has. And that's also why when you find the 5D frequency person, mystic or not, you're going to find them looking to all of their relationships with appreciation. And they don't cut people out. They learn from people that they've been with, and they appreciate having the possibility to have learned about themselves, how to bring forth more of what they want to be, and thank the person who spent that time with them. It's also why we don't do loving with the eyes and saying goodbye. We love with the heart and soul. And so whatever detours took place with people, things, work, you're cool, you're happy, you've processed. In fact, you've become more of a person who can relate to your emotional plane with empowerment, and so it feels empowering. And you're ready to take a little bit of time to figure all this stuff out and put the next pieces, and we'll be back with more tomorrow. In the meantime, thanks for tuning in. Like, share, and subscribe. And if you know anybody who does love to live mindfully, send them over with heart, loving heart, and all emotions, not laundry. Okay, so we'll be back again tomorrow. Have a good one.